You think you're a good person, right? You help others. You avoid conflict. You try to do the right thing. But here's the uncomfortable truth. So did they. The men who followed cruel orders. The people who stood by as injustice happened. The ones who betrayed others to save themselves. They all thought they were decent, until they weren't. And maybe you've had moments like that too. When you didn't want to do harm, but the pressure, the fear, the desperation left you with no good choices. I had a friend, a good man, but drowning in debt and out of options, he betrayed someone who trusted him, not because he was evil, but because he was cornered. And here's the terrifying part. If the right pressure can break him, it can break anyone, even you. In this video, we're going deep into the dark side of human nature, not the Hollywood kind, the real one. You'll see how ordinary people, not monsters, commit unthinkable acts when the right buttons are pushed. We'll look at the experiments that shocked the world, how authority, groupthink, fear, and obedience can turn anyone into something they swore they'd never become. By the end of this video, you'll understand what makes people snap and whether it could happen to you. Most people believe they're good. That's not an opinion, that's a psychological constant. Even when they lie, cheat, manipulate, or harm others, they find ways to justify it. Because the mind can't survive seeing itself as the villain. This is the mask of goodness, and it's one of the most powerful illusions in the human psyche. You lie to avoid hurting someone? You're not dishonest. You're just protecting their feelings. You lash out at someone weaker? You're not cruel. They provoked you. You break your promise because it's inconvenient. You're not unreliable. Life just got complicated. No matter what we do, the ego finds a story that keeps us clean. And the scarier part? We believe those stories. As Dostoevsky once said, nothing is easier than to denounce the evildoer. Nothing is more difficult than to understand him within oneself. That's the trap. The worse we behave, the more desperately we try to prove we're still good. Sometimes we act out of fear. Sometimes we chase approval. Sometimes we follow the crowd just to avoid being alone. But instead of facing those truths, we polish the mask. We double down on the lie that I'm the good guy. And we project the blame. They deserved it. They were the problem. The mask becomes so convincing that even when we betray, destroy, or abandon, we look in the mirror and see a saint. Some people will betray you, hurt you, humiliate you, and still say they're the better person. This is why you can't trust appearances. Some of the most dangerous people in the world walk around with the brightest smiles and the kindest words. But underneath, there's resentment, frustration, and darkness they've never dared to confront. And when that darkness finally finds a way out, it doesn't always look like horror. Sometimes it looks like a uniform, a job, a duty, a moment when someone stops thinking and just obeys. That's what we'll explore next. The chilling experiments that show how ordinary people become monsters in plain sight. The most dangerous systems aren't built with weapons. They're built with uniforms, labels, titles. They're built inside the human mind. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo launched a simple experiment at Stanford University. 24 normal students, randomly split into two groups, guards and prisoners. The guards were given military-style khaki uniforms, mirrored sunglasses to remove eye contact, and wooden batons. The prisoners? Loose-fitting smocks with ID numbers. No names, no belts, no dignity. No one was told how to act. There were no real rules, no scripts, no punishments, just roles. But within hours, something terrifying began to unfold. The guards started asserting dominance. They made the prisoners do push-ups, clean toilets with their bare hands, and stay silent. Some prisoners broke down in tears, others rebelled. But the guards pushed harder, humiliating, isolating, punishing. What changed? Nothing, except the story. A story of power, status, superiority, all invented in a lab. A uniform that meant nothing started to mean everything. And because both sides believed in the illusion, the consequences became real. That's the Lucifer Effect. When a human's behavior shifts drastically, not because they're evil, but because the system, the structure, the group, gave them permission to stop thinking. This isn't just history. It's not just an experiment. This is happening right now, in your country, in your city, maybe even in your life. During World War II, ordinary men in uniforms ran death camps. Not monsters, but neighbors, fathers, teachers. All because the system told them they were doing their job. And today, people are still being divided, labeled, isolated. In some places, by race or religion. In others, by wealth, gender, status. And yes, even in modern democracies, people are divided into those who have rights and those who are told they don't. In my own country, people are split into two groups, those who can leave and those who are trapped, those with power and paper and those without. Some get respect, others get hunted, and somehow society pretend it's normal. But it's not. And this is your chance to reflect. How does this kind of division play out where you live? In your country? In your job? In your daily life? Share your story in the comments. I want to hear it. Because the Lucifer Effect isn't a theory. It's a mirror. And if you don't recognize it, you may already be part of it. But Zimbardo wasn't the only one. Years earlier, Stanley Milgram ran a now legendary experiment at Yale. Participants were instructed to give electric shocks to another person for wrong answers. The shocks weren't real, but the participants didn't know that. As the victim screamed in pain, begged for mercy, even went silent, most people still obeyed. They continued administering shocks, simply because an authority figure told them to. Over 65% went all the way, believing they had caused intense suffering or even death, just because a man in a lab coat said, "You must continue." These experiments reveal something we don't want to face. You don't need to be evil to do evil. You just need to be in the wrong place, with the wrong pressure, at the wrong time. The uniform, the title, the group, the fear of standing out, the desire to be a good citizen, a team player, obedient. These are the invisible levers that turn moral humans into obedient monsters. But here's the deeper layer. It's not just systems that corrupt us. It's the part of us we refuse to face. That's what Carl Jung called the shadow. And that's what we'll face next. But what if the danger isn't just out there, in systems, in uniforms, in power? What if it's already inside you, waiting? Carl Jung called it the shadow, the side of you that you pretend doesn't exist. It's the thoughts you suppress, the desires you hide, the rage you smile through. It's the part of you that watches your friends succeed and secretly hopes they fall. The part that fantasizes about control, about revenge, about being worshipped. And here's the part no one likes to admit. You've probably been on a date where you smiled, laughed, made eye contact, all while knowing you weren't interested. But you wanted the attention. You wanted to feel wanted. You wanted to be the one in control. That wasn't kindness. That was shadow, dressed up in charm. Or maybe you stayed in a relationship not because you loved them, but because you couldn't stand the thought of them moving on without you. That, too, is shadow, possession hiding behind affection. Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And he was right. Most people are more afraid of facing their own truth than of living a lie for the rest of their lives. So we build the image, the illusion of the good person, We wear the mask, but the shadow isn't gone. It's crouching just beneath the smile. You've seen it. The partner who guilt trips, the friend who competes in secret, the nice person who flips the moment you say no. They don't think they're doing anything wrong. They think they're victims, because the shadow works best when we pretend it's not there. Jung didn't want you to destroy it. He wanted you to face it, to look your own darkness in the eye and integrate it. Because if you don't own it, it will own you. And the people who claim they would never hurt anyone are usually the ones who do, without ever realizing it. In a world that rewards masks and punishes truth, your only real strength is self-awareness, not purity, not innocence, but integration. So what now? How do you live with that darkness and not let it define you? How do you use it without becoming it? That's what we'll explore in the final part. How to weaponize your shadow without letting it destroy everything you care about. The shadow isn't just some abstract force deep inside your subconscious. It's around you, in the people you talk to every day, in their choices, their silence, their sudden shifts. And yes, it lives in you too. That quiet girl at work, she didn't plan to lie, to manipulate. But after the debt, the loneliness, the broken promises, she learned how to sell a version of herself. Not because she was evil, but because being honest stopped paying off. That funny guy you knew in school, the one who always joked, helped others, played nice, after losing what he cared about, he stopped helping, stopped trusting. Now, he plays people before they play him. These aren't villains. They're people whose shadow got stronger than their mask. And if you don't know how to recognize that in others, or control it in yourself, one day, you won't see it coming until it's too late. So what now? How do you protect yourself from people who've lost control of their shadow without becoming just like them? That's what we'll break down next. How to deal with darkness, theirs and yours, without losing your soul. You won't survive this world by pretending to be good. You survive by knowing exactly what you are and choosing who you're willing to become. Start here. Look at your darkness. Really look. Not to shame it, but to understand how it moves. Where do you manipulate? Where do you fantasize about control, about revenge, about being untouchable? Admit it, because if you don't, someone else will use it against you. Then, pay attention to the systems you're in, the roles they hand you, the silence they expect. Every time you catch yourself thinking, well, I have no choice, that's when the mask is already forming. And don't aim to be harmless. Harmless people don't stay good. They just get bent by people who aren't. You don't need to be cruel, but you need to be capable. Capable of saying no, of walking away, of standing alone when the group loses its mind. Jung once said, "A man who is not dangerous is a man who is useless." Because without strength, your goodness is decoration, just bait. So build yourself like someone who can choose, someone who sees the monster inside and doesn't feed it, but doesn't deny it either. And as for others, watch the masks, not what they say, what they do under pressure. Because the scariest people aren't the loud ones, they're the ones who smile while calculating. You won't escape the Lucifer Effect by pretending you're above it. You'll only escape it by knowing exactly when it begins and refusing to play. Have you ever felt it? That moment when you snapped, or almost did. That time someone smiled while twisting the knife? Tell me in the comments. Let's stop pretending we're made of light and start understanding the darkness before it uses us. And if you made it this far, you're not here by accident. You're one of the few. Stick around. We're only getting started.